Welcome back to the Building Excellence Podcast, where we build lives of purpose, peace, and unstoppable growth. I'm your host, Dwayne Walker, and I am so glad that you chose to tune in today. We're in the middle of a series that's transforming lives as we're diving deep into my brand new book, The Cure to Chaos. We're unpacking the mindsets and actions that keep us stuck while exploring tools that break us free. If you're just joining us, I'd really encourage you to pause this episode and hit subscribe and catch up on episodes 1 through 3. We've been laying a foundation, brick by brick, for a life of clarity, a life of courage, and a life of breakthrough. Today is episode 4, and we're diving back into chapter 2. At the very end of chapter 2, there's a section called Escaping the Quicksand of Excuses. One thing about excuses is if you're human, you make them. There's few things in life that affect every one of us. And one of those things is excuses. Last week, we cracked open this topic and started exposing many of the excuses that keep us stuck. Just for fun, I created a list of the top 10 things that we as humans create excuses for, or that we blame others for. Last week, we explored the top 6 through 10, and today, we're exploring the top 5 excuses that keep people from building the life that God has called them to build. All right, just a quick disclaimer. I am a pastor at heart. I accepted my calling into the ministry at the age of 16. And ever since then, I've been doing my best to help others discover their purpose and make a difference. And so in this particular episode, you're going to hear me reference God a lot. Really, because frankly, part of my belief system, part of my value system is everything is spiritual to some level. And when it comes to making excuses, there's a lot of factors that pertain to God that pertain to your value system. So buckle up, and if you don't believe in God, if you don't believe in Jesus, that's okay. There's still so many nuggets that you're going to be able to get from this particular episode. So grab a notebook, grab your coffee, and let's get to work. All right. As we get to work, there's one huge principle that we learned last week that I think we need to start off with, and that's this. Excuses are like a drug. They give temporary relief, but they never bring lasting freedom. So let's be honest. Excuses feel so good for all of us because they give us permission to stay safe. They give us permission to not be vulnerable. They let us blame others and let us avoid the pain of taking responsibility. But here's the truth. The more you feed your excuse, the more you starve your destiny. And I want to challenge all of us today. Let's break that cycle. So let's begin with number 5 of the top 10 things that people blame others for or create excuses for. So number 5 is we as humans, we love to make excuses for. We love to blame others for our bad habits. This one's really personal for me. This season of my life has been the most chaotic I've ever faced. I feel pressure. I feel attacks of chaos coming in from all sides. I feel attacks of chaos in my marriage, in my family, in my job, in my career. And some days I wake up with a weight on my chest, and all I want to do is hide. There's some days recently where I've thought, just give me something, give me anything to numb the pain, something to make me forget. And I'm tempted to give myself an excuse to go and do those things. But then I remember, excuses feel good in the moment, but they rob me of the breakthrough waiting on the other side of discipline. Some of us, perhaps some of you, have felt the same thing. Or perhaps you're struggling with a different excuse. Here are some common excuses that we make when it comes to unhealthy habits. They hurt me so bad, so I deserve to do this or I deserve to do that. They hurt me so bad, maybe I should do this that's going to make me feel better. I'm only doing it because he did this to me or because she did that to me. I can't eat better or work out because my job is too demanding or because my kids are too active or because I don't have the time or because I'm too tired to eat healthy food or too healthy food is too expensive. No, perhaps one of your unhealthy habits is not working out. And so you're saying I can't work out because I don't have the time or maybe you're just giving in and saying, you know what, I have unhealthy habits because it runs in my family. Maybe your unhealthy habit is you wake up too late and you're saying, you know what, I can't wake up early because I'm a night owl. Here is a very important principle to embrace if we're going to break through these chaotic excuses. And that's this: change doesn't wait for convenience. And achieving your destiny doesn't happen by caving into the excuses that create bad habits. At some point, we all have to choose to be different. To be different, we have to choose habits that are going to produce the outcomes that we want in our lives. We have to pay the price for the change we want. We have to pay the price for the person we want to become. We have to speak the truth to every excuse every time it hits our mind. So, whenever your mind or your body begins to try to create the excuse that you don't have time, remind your body, remind your mind that no, we all make time for what matters most. You say you're too tired. That exhaustion might be the very result of poor sleep, unhealthy eating, or high stress living. You say it costs too much to eat clean. Well, chronic illness, medication, loss of energy costs a lot more. Just we have to remind ourselves of these things because it help us break through of those chaotic excuses. You say that all this chaos runs in the family. Well, that might be true, but dysfunction doesn't have to run through you. Whether it's food, fitness, rest, routines, attitudes, behavior, relationship, or leadership, your body, your mind, your behavior, and your decisions are your responsibility. They're my responsibility. So the question is this: are we letting excuses create unhealthy habits? And if so, are we taking ownership? Every excuse is a code that I want results without personal ownership and personal commitment. Every excuse is code for I want results without personal ownership and without personal commitment. When we make excuses, you hand over stewardship to someone else. Let's all own our habits, even when it's uncomfortable. Remember, excuses might bring comfort, but they never bring change. All right, let's move to number 4. So that was number 5. Here's number 4 on the top 10 list that of things that people create excuses for or that we as humans blame others for. Many of us, I would say, create excuses or blame others for stagnant careers or a life that isn't meeting the expectation that they had for themselves. Many of us create excuses for stagnant careers or a stagnant life. And here are some of the excuses that we might make. My boss won't promote me. There's no room to grow here. An excuse may be I don't have the right degree or I'm waiting on the right opportunity. Well, one truth is this: your next level won't come by waiting or complaining. It's going to come by preparing. Years ago, I was stuck. I was working hard and not seeing the results I wanted to see in my life. There were several areas of life where the results were just frustrating and I wasn't getting an idea or a strategy where I could break through. Then a mentor told me this. If you're not seeing the results you want, ask yourself this question. What can I do differently to get a different result? That's been a question that's changed my life. So no matter the situation, if I'm not getting a result I want, I'm asking myself this question. What can I do differently to get a different result? Sometimes God delays the next level because he's preparing you. Sometimes he's preparing me. And that sometimes feels like rejection, but actuality is protection. A blessing too soon is not a blessing at all. A blessing too soon is actually a burden. Family, maybe you're frustrated right now, but let me ask you, what are you learning in this season? Are you maximizing it or are you wasting it with excuses? Here's another common excuse when it comes to a stagnant life or stagnant career. If I just had the money, or if that person would just help me, or if I was just empowered enough. I don't have enough information, so I can't get the results. Or nobody helps me, so therefore my career is stagnant, my life is stagnant. These excuses are so common. And they just keep you in quicksand. They keep us stuck in cycles of deepening chaos. So, how do we conquer these excuses? Let's reframe them. First, let's take ownership by understanding that our growth is our responsibility. It's not our company's responsibility. It's not an influencer's responsibility. It's not a rich investor's responsibility. It's not my supervisor's responsibility. If you need more information, if I need more information, it's our responsibility to get it. Let's choose to bloom where we're planted. Let's learn all we can in the season that we're in and produce the most results that we possibly can. Remember, your next level won't come by complaining. It will come by preparing. Okay, let's move to number 3. All right, what's the third top excuse or top thing that people blame others for? Relationship failures. Man, this one's a big one. Y'all, relationships are messy. They are hard. And when I talk about relational failures, I'm not talking about abusive relationships or infidelity in marriage. Yet this one still hits so close to home for me because right now I'm navigating so many relational challenges. Here are a few excuses we give for relational failures. We say things like, my relationship with this person or that person failed because they didn't do what I asked. My relationship failed because they did something I didn't like. My relationship failed because they changed or I gave more than they did. They never understood me. They didn't make me a priority. They didn't meet my needs. They didn't do this or they didn't do that. All of us have felt something like that along the way. And all of this may be true, but they're not the full truth. Here's what most of us don't say. We don't say things like, I had unrealistic expectations. We don't say things like, I never spoke up. I avoided conflict. I stopped showing up. I shut down emotionally. I didn't have grace. I didn't have compassion. I expected perfection. These are all things many of us don't say and we don't acknowledge. Relationships fail when communication stops and ownership disappears. Communication stops when a person chooses silence or we're talking about what's wrong, or when a person refuses to listen to the other person. They refuse to hear and seek to understand the other person's perspective. And they just want to be understood and believe their perspective is the only perspective. Ownership disappears when a person blames the other person without acknowledging or doing what they can do differently to get a different outcome. Growth in any relationship starts by asking, what part did I play? What could I have done differently? How do I cover their weaknesses? How do I listen and seek to understand their perspective? Do I know their perspective so well that I can articulate it and they agree with me that that is their perspective? How do I speak up and express how I feel in a way that they can understand? How do I remove the expectation for them to succeed in an area that they are weak in? Listen, relationships are so difficult. They are so incredibly complex. Why? Because we as humans we're complex people. We can't keep or fix them all. Not every problem can be solved, and not every conflict can come to a mutual conclusion. However, it is important to do your part, even when it's hard. As far as it depends on you, and as far as it depends on me, let's make every effort. Let's do all we can to live in peace and to live in unity with everyone. Let's choose to speak up in love and not just expect people to understand and do what we want them to do without us telling them, without us expecting them to read our minds. Let's choose to give grace and not hold a grudge. Let's choose to remove the expectation. Also, let's choose accountability and community. Excuses thrive in isolation. They thrive in areas where you could hide from the realities of what was your part, but they die in community. So, who's your accountability partner? Who's someone that's calling you higher? Are you allowing all your relationships to grow you? Or are you choosing people that will help fuel the chaos and excuses you have in your life and help you stay stuck? Let's be people that chooses to have community around us that call us higher. Let's be people to make every effort to live in peace and live in unity. Let's be people that is, whenever it comes to relationships, we're going to do our very best to see what could I be doing differently to get a different result and not just blame the other person to make all the changes. All right, let's go to the number 2 top thing that people blame others for or create excuses for. This was the big one too. The top 2, the number 2 reason is this. I blame other people and I create excuses for my financial problems. Many of us have financial problems throughout our lives, and many of us want to make excuses for those financial problems. Why is that? Because money is emotional. It's tied to our survival, it's tied to fear, it's tied to shame, and even many times it's tied to our identity. I have financial problems because I don't make enough money is one of the excuses. Another excuse is I have too many bills and that's why I have financial problems. Or I was never taught about how money works and that's why I have financial problems. But here's the truth. Money problems aren't income problems. They're management problems. You say emergencies keep coming up, or my spouse spends too much, or I just deserve to treat myself. I'm telling you, I hear you. So, how do we overcome all of this? Well, let's make a commitment to budget. We can't keep blaming bills or blaming spouses if we haven't made a budget or committed and become accountable to a budget. Let's say no to impulse spending. Let's commit to building a safety net. Let's ask for help if this is an area that we're not gifted in. Let's talk to people who have skill and wisdom in this area and say, I mean, can you help me be able to reach my goals financially? Saving is not about what you make. It's about what you keep. Budgeting isn't designed to be punishment. It's designed to be permission. It gives you the power to say yes to what matters most and say no to the things that don't matter as much. Don't let excuses rob you of your financial freedom. Let's take ownership. Let's learn the skills needed. Let's practice discipline. And if you need more practical help here, please message me. One of our building excellence partners, this is what they do. He owns a financial and accounting services company called Skyward. This company specializes in helping families and individuals and businesses learn the financial best practices to not only steward their money, but also to learn how to build generational wealth in a very practical way. So remember, budgeting is punishment, it's permission. It's the plan that helps you build the life you want. All right, let's go to the number one reason. The number one thing that people create excuses for or blame others for. So, what's the number one reason that of what people blame others for? Lack of success. Many people blame their lack of success on others because they say that they don't have the right connections, or they may say, nobody will help me, or that the timing just hasn't been right. I just haven't got the right door opened up. I didn't get the support that I needed, maybe, or maybe my I haven't succeeded because I don't know where to start. Well, let me say this. You can either make progress or we can make excuses, but you can't do both. Let me say that again. We can either make progress or we can make excuses, but we cannot do both. Success isn't about being lucky or perfect. It's about ownership. One of my favorite quotes comes from John Maxwell. He says that everything rises and falls on leadership. And in the cure to chaos, I say that this way. If you want your life to rise, your leadership must rise first. And your leadership starts with you. My leadership starts with me. If you want your life to rise, your leadership must rise first. I do not want to build something and end up hating what I built one day. I don't want to build my life and at the end of it, hate the life that I built. What I've seen time and time again is people who build their life on excuses eventually wake up and hate what they've built. Let's build a life we're proud of. Let's build a life that honors God, that's full of faith and ownership, and not full of excuses. So before we close, the top 10 things that we blame others for or create excuses for, let's commit to a few things. I have three things I want you to commit to. The first thing, let's reframe failure. Most of our excuses are rooted in the fear of failure. We avoid trying because we're afraid of messing up. But here's the truth, failure is just feedback. The only real failure is choosing an excuse over you learning from the moment. We have to trust the process, even when it's hard. We have to commit to the process that will put us in the closest proximity to God and to the outcome that we want for our lives. All right, here's the second thing I want us to commit to. I want us to commit to breaking the dysfunctional patterns. In the cure to chaos, I talk about recognizing the hidden dysfunctions that keep us stuck. This is the battlefield. Escaping the quicksand of excuses is about interrupting the patterns that keep chaos alive in our lives. And the third thing I want us to commit to is visualizing what success looks like. I just want you to close your eyes and imagine your life if you cut out every excuse that has held you back. Close your eyes and just cut out every excuse that's currently holding you back. What does that version of you look like? How does it feel? Now write that down. declare it, that I'm going to be that person that I see. I'm going to be that person that isn't making an excuse for that anymore. I'm going to be the person that isn't making an excuse for that anymore. I'm going to declare, I'm going to do this or that. I'm going to take ownership by doing that or this to produce a better outcome in my life. Again, speak on it, own it, declare it. All right, so for my final thought today, I want to end on a spiritual note. Many times we create excuses because our faith doesn't believe that we live in a world that can handle our weaknesses. We don't believe that God has prepared a table that can handle us and our weaknesses. We don't believe that God has prepared a table that can handle us, our weaknesses, and our mistakes. I think it's normal for us to feel this way from time to time. But then we need to take captive those thoughts and make them obedient to the word. And God's word reminds us that he that began a good work in you, he will carry it to completion. What does that tell us? That tells us that it's a process. That where you start is not where you're going to finish. That there are steps that he orders, and it's important that we take every step and let every step do what it's supposed to do in our lives. Luke 16 says this. It says, be joyful in hope, faithful in affliction, hopeful in prayer. One of my favorite scriptures is James 1. It begins at verse 2 and it says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. So let perseverance finish its work so that you will be mature and complete and not lacking anything. The first part of that says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith. So it's so important for us to understand that our faith will be tested. So what is a test? A test is something that takes measures of something. It checks the reliability of something. It checks the quality of something before you put it into widespread action. So that's the reason why we take tests in any space. We take tests in school so we can know, okay, we're testing the quality of what you've learned. We may test our tire pressure. Does this tire have enough pressure to be able to handle the load? So whatever you name the thing, you name the test, we're testing the quality of that thing. And the reason why our faith needs to be tested, because we need to know, is it reliable before we put it into widespread action, before we take that next step? Because I do believe this, that every step that God creates for us requires a certain level of faith. And the deeper you go in God, the further you go in Christ, the more faith you're going to need. And it says this, and so it's important for you to allow yourself to be tested. But then that faith, once it's tested, it's going to produce something. It says your faith will produce perseverance. So what is perseverance? Perseverance is persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay. So let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Let's not let excuses make us fail the faith test. Let's not let excuses rob us of the perseverance needed to be all of what God wants us to be. Another mentor of mine said it like this: embrace your mistakes. We all reserve the right to grow smarter. So be honest with yourself and be honest with others. We really never lose. We either win or we learn, and learning makes us better. So let's review our key takeaways from the book so far. We've learned this. We learned it's important for us to redefine success. That success is alignment to your purpose and fulfillment. It is not us chasing the applause. It's not us chasing a position. We talked about it's important for us to establish sustainable routines by understanding the little rhythms that build big results. We talked about understanding your limits and stewarding what you have. We talked about pursue better, not just more. Movement doesn't mean progress. We talked about embracing progress over perfection. Let's show up. Let's win or learn, but what we won't do is give up. And then in this last 2 episodes, we talked about the importance for us to cut out the excuses, to escape the quicksand of excuses, cancel them, replace them with action to produce the results you want in life. Why? Because when we cut the excuses, you move from stuck to stable. You move from frustration to focus, and you move from chaos to clarity. So next week, we're going to dive into chapter 3 of The Cure to Chaos. We're going to talk about intentional living, how to intentionally choose your results. You don't want to miss it. Here's your challenge before we get out of here. Write down one excuse you've been making that's costing you peace, that's costing your purpose, that's costing you progress. Call it out. Let's declare war on it and commit to starting today to leading yourself out of chaos. Excuses might comfort you in chaos, but they never carry you to your calling, your purpose, or your destiny. Excuses might comfort you in chaos, but they never carry you to your calling, to your purpose, or your destiny. Well, guys, we are done for today. And if you want, I actually created a free PDF called The Excuse Breaker. So if you are passionate and like, I'm going to declare war on making excuses in my life, and you want a free resource that can help you identify and break the excuses that are holding you back, go to curetochaos.com, and at the bottom of that page, just type in your information, or you could email us at curetochaos.com, and we'll send that resource right over to you. And guys, if this episode has fired you up, share it, post it, tag it, Dwayne.Walker, and use this hashtag #CureToChaos, and let's continue to build excellence together. All right, see you next time.